The city lay under a thick, eerie silence, a haunting stillness that seemed to swallow every sound whole. Buildings, once vibrant and alive with the hum of daily life, now stood as shadowy relics draped in darkness and decay. The sun had long abandoned the streets, leaving only flickering street lamps and distant fires to cast weak glows across the empty avenues. In the heart of this forsaken metropolis, a small team of survivors moved carefully, shadows among shadows. They called themselves the Vanguard, a tight-knit group determined to reclaim their city from the relentless tide of the walking dead. Their mission was simple, yet deadly: take back the streets, one block at a time. The leader, Captain Mara Ellis, scanned the horizon through the cracked visor of her helmet. Her sharp eyes reflected a mixture of determination and exhaustion. The city's ruins stretched before her like a graveyard, each building a potential trap, each shadow hiding unseen dangers. Her voice was low but firm as she spoke into her radio: "Team, stay close and keep your eyes peeled. We've got one shot at this." Behind her, Jackson, the team's scout, crept forward with cat-like stealth. His keen senses were crucial in a place where a single misstep could mean disaster. To his right, Lena, the engineer, adjusted her gear, a makeshift crossbow crafted from scavenged parts, a silent weapon perfect for the silent kills they'd need. Eli, the medic, followed closely, his backpack heavy with supplies, always ready for the worst. They had one objective: secure the old city square, a strategic point that would serve as a base for future operations. The square was their beacon of hope. If they could hold it, the city's heart might beat once again. But as they moved forward, a chill crawled down Mara's spine. The city's silence wasn't just emptiness. It was a warning. Suddenly, a faint shuffle echoed from a nearby alley. The team froze. Mara raised a hand, signaling them to halt. The sound grew louder: slow, deliberate footsteps, uneven and unsettling. The walking dead were close. Jackson stepped forward, bow drawn, eyes sharp. The alley's darkness seemed to pulse with movement. Then, a figure emerged, slow, shuffling, skin pale and mottled, eyes vacant but hungry. Mara's voice was steady: "No sudden moves. We take it down quietly." The figure lurched forward, and Jackson's arrow flew silently through the night, striking true. The creature crumpled without a sound, and the team pressed onward, adrenaline surging but nerves taut. As they neared the square, the true scale of the city's fall hit them. Abandoned cars, overturned and burned out, littered the streets. Windows were shattered, and the occasional distant groan echoed from the shadows. The walking dead were everywhere, lurking just beyond sight. Lena paused at a derelict newsstand, rifling through the scattered papers. "Look at this," she whispered, holding up a faded headline: "City declares state of emergency as unexplained outbreak spreads." The date was months old. The world outside had moved on, but here, time was frozen in the moment the nightmare began. The team set up a temporary perimeter as dusk turned to night. They knew this was only the beginning. The real challenge lay ahead, not just fighting the walking dead, but facing the unknown threats lurking in the city's shadows. Eli checked their supplies. "We're low on meds and ammo. We'll need to scavenge tomorrow." Mara nodded grimly. "We survived tonight. Tomorrow, we take the city back." As the first stars appeared overhead, the team settled into tense quiet. The city of shadows held its breath, waiting for the battle to come. Would you like me to continue with Part 2 next? Or do you want to review and tweak Part 1 first? Night had fully descended over the city, swallowing the faint glow of the fires that still flickered in distant ruins. The vanguard huddled behind the skeletal remains of a crumbling fountain in the city square. The silence around them was oppressive, broken only by the occasional groan carried on the wind, a grim reminder of what waited beyond their fragile safety. Captain Mara Ellis tightened her grip on her weapon and surveyed her team. Each member wore the same grim determination, faces etched with exhaustion but eyes sharp as blades. Their brief rest was over. Before dawn, they needed to move, scavenge for supplies, reinforce their position, and push further into the city. "Jackson," Mara whispered, "I want you to scout ahead along 5th Avenue. Report any threats or safe routes." Jackson nodded silently, already disappearing into the shadows with the stealth of a ghost. Mara turned to Lena. "We need more ammo. If we can find the old police station, we might get lucky." Lena gave a curt nod, her hands already checking her crossbow's mechanisms. Eli laid out a quick plan for medical supplies, marking locations on a tattered city map that glowed faintly under his flashlight. With a collective breath, the team slipped into the deeper shadows of the city streets. The concrete jungle that once teemed with life was now a twisted maze of danger and decay. Every footstep echoed like a gunshot, every shadow seemed to move with sinister intent. The air smelled of smoke and rot, mingled with the faint metallic tang of blood, a scent that made their skin crawl. Jackson's voice crackled over the radio. "I'm moving north. No sign of walkers yet, but the streets are clear only for a few blocks. I'm watching movement near the old library." Mara's pulse quickened. The library was a known hotspot, a large building, once a safe haven during the early days of the outbreak, now a nest for the walking dead. "We'll head that way," Mara ordered. "Stay sharp." As they approached the library, the team slowed, senses heightened. The heavy doors hung open, twisted on their hinges. Inside, the darkness seemed to swallow sound. Mara motioned for silence. A sudden crash from within made them jump, bookshelves toppled over, and a low growl echoed through the halls. Shadows shifted and morphed as the walking dead stumbled into the flickering light of their flashlights. Lena's crossbow sang twice, arrows flying through the air with deadly precision. Jackson's knife flashed in quick, practiced strikes. The team fought back to back, moving in practiced coordination, a dance of survival in a world that had lost its rhythm. When the last walker fell, the team took a moment to catch their breath, their eyes adjusting to the gloom. Among the scattered books and shattered glass, they spotted something valuable, a stash of unopened medical kits and a few boxes of ammunition left behind in haste. Eli's face lit with relief as he began collecting the supplies. "This will keep us going for a while." But the moment was shattered by a sudden, piercing noise, a shrill alarm, echoing unexpectedly through the library's ruined halls. The team froze. That sound could bring every walker in the area down on them in minutes. "Who triggered that?" Mara demanded, already scanning for threats. Jackson pointed to a small panel near the entrance, a dusty, still-functioning security system blinking red. "I must have tripped it while moving through." "Great," Mara muttered, her jaw tightening. "We have to move, now." The team dashed out of the library, hearts pounding. The alarm shriek cut through the silence like a siren, and from the surrounding streets, shapes began to emerge. The walking dead, drawn by the noise, shuffled faster, their vacant eyes locking on the fleeing survivors. Mara called out over the radio, "All teams, stay alert. We're under attack." The streets erupted into chaos. The vanguard fought desperately, using every skill and weapon at their disposal. Jackson's agility kept him just out of reach, while Lena's crossbow bolts pinned walkers down one after another. Eli tended to a minor wound on Mara's arm without slowing. But the sheer number of the walking dead was overwhelming. The team was forced to retreat, ducking into an abandoned underground subway entrance, a temporary refuge from the relentless assault. As they caught their breath in the damp, dark tunnel, Mara looked at her team's tired faces. "We're not just fighting the walking dead out there," she said quietly. "We're fighting time and every mistake we make. If that alarm didn't go off, maybe we'd be farther ahead. But we adapt. We survive." The city above was still alive with the sound of the walking dead closing in, a grim reminder that the mission had only just begun. "Would you like me to continue with part 3 next?" "You said 3. The underground subway tunnel was cold and damp, a maze of concrete and metal that seemed to stretch endlessly beneath the city's shattered surface. The vanguard huddled close, their breaths visible in the chill as they tried to quiet the pounding of their hearts. Above them, the distant groans and shuffles of the walking dead echoed through the vents, a constant reminder that the world above was still lost to darkness. But down here, in the shadows beneath the city, the team found a fleeting sense of safety. Captain Mara Ellis pulled out a worn city map, its edges frayed from constant use. "We can't stay here long," she said. The subway tunnels could be a trap, unstable, and maybe home to others who don't want visitors. Lena nodded, scanning the dimly lit passage ahead. If we can find the maintenance room, there might be supplies or a way to signal the others. Eli checked his medical pack and quietly tended to Mara's arm, which had a shallow scratch from the skirmish earlier. It's nothing serious, but infections start quick in places like this. Jackson, ever alert, moved to the tunnel's edge, peering into the darkness. I don't like this silence, he murmured. Feels like we're being watched. Mara's gaze hardened. We are. But for now, we make this our advantage. As they moved cautiously through the twisting corridors, their flashlights cut through the oppressive blackness. The sound of dripping water and distant creaks filled the air, amplifying the tension with every step. Suddenly, a metallic clang rang out from somewhere deeper in the tunnel. The team froze, weapons raised. Did you hear that? Eli whispered. Jackson nodded, signaling for the group to fan out, covering more ground while staying in sight of each other. A faint glow appeared ahead, flickering lights in what looked like a small maintenance alcove. Inside, dusty crates and rusted equipment sat untouched for months, perhaps years. Lena hurried forward, searching for anything useful. Her fingers brushed over an old radio transmitter. This could be our link to the surface teams. Mara inspected the device and then looked toward the entrance tunnel. If we can get this working, we might call for backup or coordinate an extraction. But as they set to work, a faint scuffling sound came from deeper inside the tunnel, slower, heavier than the walking dead. Something different. Something worse. The team's nerves frayed instantly. Mara raised a hand. Everyone, back against the wall. Eyes sharp. From the darkness emerged a figure, not a walker, but a survivor, gaunt and wild-eyed, clutching a makeshift weapon. His ragged clothes told a story of months, maybe years, surviving alone. Wait, the stranger gasped. You don't want to be here. They're coming. Mara stepped forward cautiously. Who's they? The man's eyes darted nervously. Not walkers. Something worse. People who've lost their minds to fear and desperation. They're hunting everyone. They don't care who's friend or foe. Lena frowned. So it's not just the walking dead we have to worry about? The stranger shook his head violently. No. These ones are organized, dangerous. They'll kill to take control. Eli stepped closer, his voice steady. We don't have time for enemies in the shadows. We need to stick together. Mara looked at the newcomer, weighing the risks. The city had already broken so many rules, trust was a luxury, but survival demanded it. All right, Mara said finally. You're with us, for now. But any sign of trouble, and we move fast. The stranger nodded, relief washing over his face. Name's Reed. I know a way through the tunnels, a hidden exit near the old hospital. Could save you hours. As they prepared to move, the radio transmitter crackled to life with static, a faint voice breaking through. The surface teams were still out there, fighting. Hope flickered. Mara's resolve hardened. We're not just survivors. We're reclaiming this city. No matter what's waiting in the shadows. With Reed leading the way, the vanguard pressed deeper into the bowels of the city, ready to face whatever horrors awaited beneath the surface. Ready for part 4? The underground tunnels twisted and narrowed, forcing the team to move single file behind Reed, their reluctant guide. The air grew thicker with dust and stale moisture, the faint hum of distant city life above replaced by the eerie silence of forgotten corridors. Mara's flashlight beam barely penetrated the gloom as she studied Reed's quick, sure steps. Despite his wild appearance and nervous glances over his shoulder, he moved with purpose, like a man who'd survived this labyrinth for a long time. Jackson kept his weapon ready, his eyes darting to every shadow. How do we know this guy isn't leading us into a trap? He whispered to Mara. Mara met his gaze steadily. We don't. But out here, we have to trust someone, or we're dead already. Eli adjusted his backpack and wiped sweat from his brow, the weight of their journey settling on everyone. The hospital exit, it better be real. Reed glanced back over his shoulder, his voice low but urgent. It is. But it's not just walkers or crazy survivors down here you need to worry about. There's something else. What? Lena asked, tightening her grip on her crossbow. Reed hesitated, then said, some kind of experiment gone wrong. The military tried to contain the outbreak underground. People didn't make it out, and something got loose. Mara's heart skipped. The thought of unknown horrors beneath a city already full of walking dead was enough to make even her steel nerves waver. Suddenly, the tunnel opened into a vast cavern, remnants of an old underground station, its ceilings vaulted and walls stained with years of neglect. In the center stood a rusted maintenance elevator, its doors hanging open like a mouth waiting to swallow them whole. Reed motioned toward it. That's the way up. The hospital's just a block away on the surface. The team paused, tension thick in the stale air. Eli checked his med kit and whispered, we're not out of danger yet. This elevator could be unstable. Mara nodded. Jackson, scout the area. Lena, cover us. Jackson slipped into the shadows near the elevator shaft, moving like a shadow himself, while Lena crouched behind a pillar, crossbow aimed at the dark. The moment stretched thin, then a faint shuffle echoed near the far wall. Jackson's voice came over the radio, tight and low. Movement, more walkers, maybe something else. Before they could react, a sudden tremor shook the cavern. Dust rained from the ceiling as the elevator groaned, the cables creaking ominously. We don't have time. Mara barked. Get in, now! One by one, they piled into the elevator, hearts pounding as the ancient machinery shuddered to life. The elevator lurched upward, the rusty cables squealing against the pulleys. Outside, the groans grew louder, the walking dead had found the tunnel entrance. Mara's grip on her weapon tightened. Hold steady. We're almost out. The elevator jolted violently, the floor dropping slightly before catching. Reed swore under his breath. This thing's not gonna hold. Eli's voice was calm but firm. Brace yourselves. Suddenly, the elevator stalled, shuddering as it hung precariously between floors. The lights flickered, plunging them into near darkness. Power's out, Lena said sharply. We're stuck. Panic threatened to rise, but Mara slammed her fist against the side of the elevator. Keep calm. We're alive, and we get out of this. Jackson called out from the radio. I'm on it. I'll try to manually open the doors. Minutes crawled by like hours. The team held their breath as Jackson worked, sweat slick on his brow. Finally, with a heavy grind, the elevator doors creaked open, revealing a dimly lit stairwell leading up. One by one, they climbed out, emerging into the cold night air just behind the old hospital. The city stretched out before them, shattered, silent, and still crawling with danger. Mara surveyed the streets. We take the hospital, set up a base, and find out what's happening with this experiment gone wrong. But before they could move, a shadow shifted near the hospital's entrance, a figure silhouetted in the moonlight. Who's there? Mara called, raising her weapon. The figure stepped forward slowly, hands raised. I'm not one of them. I'm Dr. Reyes. I've been hiding here, trying to find a way to stop the outbreak. The team exchanged wary glances. Another survivor, or something else? Mara lowered her weapon slightly but kept her guard up. Talk fast, Doctor. We don't have time for games. Dr. Reyes nodded, relief flooding his features. I have information that could change everything, but it's dangerous. We'll need to trust each other if we want to survive. The City of Shadows was no longer just haunted by the walking dead. Deeper secrets lurked beneath its surface, and the mission to reclaim the streets was only just beginning. Want me to continue with Part 5? The hospital loomed ahead like a crumbling fortress, its shattered windows and graffiti-streaked walls casting long shadows under the moonlight. Inside, the faint hum of broken machinery mixed with distant, unsettling noises. Mara's team moved cautiously, every step careful, every breath measured. Dr. Reyes led the way through the debris-strewn hallways, his flashlight revealing peeling paint and abandoned equipment. The outbreak started here, he said quietly. The virus was a military experiment meant to enhance soldiers' endurance. But something went terribly wrong. Lena's eyes narrowed. You expect us to believe a secret government experiment turned the city into a graveyard? Reyes didn't flinch. It's true. The military sealed the hospital underground when it spiraled out of control. But the virus mutated. It's not just turning people into walkers anymore, there's something more aggressive. Eli scanned the area, his medical instincts alert. We've seen signs already, walkers that move faster, smarter, almost coordinated. Jackson shifted nervously. And now there's this other group, those crazy survivors Reed warned us about? Dr. Reyes nodded grimly. They're desperate, dangerous. Some think the virus changes the mind in different ways. They're no longer just surviving, they're hunting. Mara took a deep breath, steeling herself. We're not just fighting the Walking Dead anymore. We're fighting people who've lost everything, and maybe themselves. Suddenly, a sharp noise echoed from a side room, a metallic clang followed by hurried footsteps. The team snapped to alert, weapons drawn. From the shadows emerged a woman, wild-eyed and trembling. Please, help me, she whispered. Lena stepped forward, lowering her crossbow slightly. Who are you? My name's Clara, the woman said. I was a nurse here. I've been hiding in the old wing. There are others, survivors trapped in the basement. But something's hunting them. Something worse than the walkers. Mara exchanged a glance with Dr. Reyes. Basement? That's where the military held the quarantine cells. Clara nodded, tears shining in her eyes. They experimented on people down there. Some didn't survive. The ones who did, they changed. Eli checked Clara's arm, bruises and scratches marked her skin. We need to get her some medical care. And fast. Mara made a quick decision. We'll help you. But we move fast. No one stays in one place too long. The group headed down narrow stairwells, deeper into the hospital's bowels. The air grew colder, thicker, heavy with the scent of decay and something else, something metallic. Suddenly, the faint flicker of lights revealed a horrific scene, rows of abandoned quarantine cells, their glass shattered, chains broken. Signs of struggle everywhere. We're not alone, Reed muttered, eyes scanning the darkness. A low growl echoed, sending chills down their spines. From the shadows emerged figures, twisted and gaunt, but unlike any walker they had seen before. Their eyes glowed faintly, movements unnervingly deliberate. They're not dead, Clara whispered. They're something else. The team raised their weapons, heartbeats racing. Mara's voice was steady. Stay together. Don't let them surround us. The creatures lunged. The fight erupted in chaos, metal clanged against makeshift weapons, gunfire echoed through the tunnels. Lena's crossbow found its mark, taking down one creature, while Jackson swung a pipe with fierce determination. Eli tended quickly to Clara, who had been grazed during the scuffle. We don't have time for hesitation, he urged. Mara shouted orders, directing the team through the labyrinthine corridors, desperate to find a way out. Suddenly, a blaring alarm shattered the night silence, a remnant of the hospital's security system, now malfunctioning. Great, Reed cursed. That'll draw them all. Mara's eyes narrowed. We have to move, now. With adrenaline fueling their steps, they sprinted towards an emergency exit Dr. Reyes had marked on his map. Behind them, the strange creatures howled in frustration, their eerie cries echoing through the halls. Bursting out into the cold night air, the team collapsed behind a parked ambulance, gasping for breath. Mara wiped blood from her forehead and looked back at the hospital. This place holds too many secrets. But we've only just scratched the surface. Dr. Reyes met her gaze. We need to find out what they were really doing down there, and stop it, before the city is lost forever. The Vanguard had reclaimed a small piece of the city tonight, but the battle was far from over. In the shadows of the hospital and the streets above, darker threats were stirring, threats that could change everything. Want to continue to Part 6? The team gathered in a small abandoned building not far from the hospital, catching their breath and tending wounds. The city outside was a restless graveyard, every distant sound a possible threat. Mara studied the map Dr. Reyes had drawn, her mind racing. "We need supplies and more intel," Mara said quietly. "But the city is crawling with walkers, and whatever those creatures were in the basement, there's something new." Reed shifted uncomfortably, avoiding eye contact. "There's more I haven't told you," he admitted. "Not all survivors want the city back. Some profit from chaos." Jackson's eyes narrowed. "You mean bandits?" Reed shook his head. "Worse. There's a group that controls the supply routes, using fear and misinformation to keep others weak. They call themselves the Shadows. They're well-armed and ruthless." Lena clenched her fists. "So, we're not just fighting the dead. We're fighting people who want the city to stay broken." Dr. Reyes frowned. "If the military's experiment unleashed this virus in those creatures, it's likely the Shadows know more than they let on." Suddenly, a noise outside caught their attention, a soft tapping, almost rhythmic. "Someone's coming," Eli warned. Mara motioned for silence. The door creaked open slowly. A figure stepped inside. It was Clara, the nurse who had escaped the hospital basement. But something was off. Her eyes darted nervously, and she clutched a small device tightly in her hand. "I found something," Clara whispered. "But I need to tell you the truth." Mara gestured for her to continue. Clara's voice trembled. "The Shadows, they're connected to the military experiment. They've been capturing survivors for their own tests, trying to weaponize the virus." Eli's face paled. "They're using people as lab rats?" Clara nodded. "I escaped, but they're after me. They think I know too much." Jackson tensed. "If they're this close already, we're running out of time." Mara exchanged a look with Reed. "We need to strike first. Find their base, rescue any captives, and shut them down." As they prepared, Clara suddenly shifted her weight, eyes wild. "I have to confess something else," she stammered. "I'm not sure I can be trusted. I've been working with the Shadows." Shock rippled through the group. "What?" Mara's voice was cold. "Why didn't you say this earlier?" Clara's gaze dropped. "I was scared. They threatened my family. But I want out. I want to help you." Eli stepped forward cautiously. "We need proof. If you're lying, you put us all in danger." Clara pulled out the device, a small, encrypted data drive. "This has their locations, plans, everything." Mara studied her, weighing the risk. "All right. But one wrong move, and you're out." The team's fragile alliance now held under a cloud of suspicion. Night fell again, and the city's shadows seemed to grow deeper, heavier. As they moved toward the rumored base, every sound was magnified, footsteps echoing behind them, whispers carried on the wind. Suddenly, gunfire erupted. "Ambush!" Jackson shouted, diving behind cover. The team scrambled, exchanging fire with unseen enemies. Mara's heart pounded. "Stay together. We're not going down here." Clara hesitated, then bolted, running straight toward the gunfire. "Clara!" Mara yelled, but the chaos swallowed her voice. In the confusion, one shot rang out. Clara collapsed, eyes wide with fear and pain. The attackers vanished as quickly as they had appeared, leaving only echoes and smoke. Mara rushed to Clara's side. "Stay with us," she pleaded. Clara's breath was shallow. I was trying to help." Before she could say more, she slipped into unconsciousness. The team was shaken, betrayal, loss, and danger now weighed heavier than ever. Mara looked around at her team, determination hardening her resolve. "We fight not just for survival, but to take back this city from all who destroy it, dead or alive." The city's shadows held many secrets, but Mara and her team were ready to face whatever came next. Want me to continue with Part 7? The bitter chill of dawn crept into the ruined city streets as Mara's team prepared for their most dangerous mission yet, to infiltrate the Shadows' stronghold and end their reign of terror. Clara's injury was stable but serious. The data drive she carried was now in Mara's hands, a lifeline to the information they desperately needed. Dr. Reyes studied the drive intently. If this data is accurate, their base is located beneath the old subway tunnels, a place long forgotten and hidden. Reed checked his gear, eyes sharp. Subways are a maze. Perfect for traps and ambushes. We'll have to move carefully. Jackson tightened his grip on his makeshift spear. I'm ready for whatever's waiting down there. The team slipped silently through cracked streets, avoiding roving packs of walkers and scouting shadows alike. The city seemed to hold its breath, every shadow felt like a threat. Reaching the subway entrance, Mara paused, staring into the darkness below. No turning back now. One by one, they descended into the cold underground, their flashlights cutting through the thick blackness. The air was damp, stale, and heavy with the smell of rust and decay. Suddenly, a distant sound, metallic scraping echoing through the tunnels. The team froze. Traps, Reed whispered. They're testing our nerves. Lena moved forward cautiously, scanning for tripwires or pressure plates. This way, she whispered, signaling a narrow side passage. As they advanced, the tunnels grew narrower and more twisted. Strange markings appeared on the walls, symbols none of them recognized but that hinted at the Shadows' hold over this underground world. Ahead, a faint glow spilled from a large chamber. The team crouched, weapons ready. Inside, they saw a scene that froze their blood, rows of cages, some empty, others holding survivors, gaunt, terrified faces peering through rusted bars. Nearby, armed guards patrolled, their eyes sharp and cruel. Mara's heart clenched. We have to free them. Reed nodded grimly. But quietly. One wrong move and we're all dead. The team split, Lena and Jackson took positions near the guards, ready to strike. Mara and Eli began unlocking cages, freeing the captives. Suddenly, a harsh voice barked orders. Intruders. Stop them. Chaos exploded. The Shadows raised alarm, and the corridors erupted with gunfire and shouting. Lena's crossbow bolts flew true, taking down guards, while Jackson fought fiercely, his spear striking with deadly precision. Mara pushed survivors toward an emergency exit. But then, a chilling growl echoed from deeper in the tunnels. The strange creatures from the hospital basement, the ones neither walker nor fully human, emerged, drawn by the noise. The team found themselves caught between two deadly enemies. Hold the line. Mara shouted, fighting side by side with her team as the creatures lunged and the Shadows pressed forward. In the chaos, Clara stirred, waking just in time to see the battle. Help, she cried out, trying to stand. Eli rushed to her side. Stay down, Clara. The fighting intensified, but the team's determination never wavered. One by one, they pushed through the attackers, clearing a path to the surface. Bursting into the fresh air, the survivors behind them gasped at the sight, a city still cloaked in shadows, but for a moment, flickers of hope shone through. Mara looked back at the tunnels, now silent again. We've dealt them a blow, she said, voice steady but tired. But this war isn't over. As the freed survivors joined the group, Mara's thoughts turned inward. The Shadows had been exposed, but their influence ran deep. And those twisted creatures lurking beneath the city? They were far from defeated. With the city still trapped in darkness, Mara and her team prepared for what would be the final push. Want to continue with Part 8, the thrilling conclusion? You said. The first light of dawn struggled to break through the thick, gray clouds hanging over the city. Mara stood atop a crumbling rooftop, her eyes scanning the streets below. The battle beneath the city had been won, but the war was far from over. The Shadows were weakened but still dangerous, and the city's dead continued to roam, twisted and relentless. Her team gathered around her, battered, exhausted, but unbroken. We've freed survivors, disrupted the shadows, and exposed their plans, Mara said, her voice steady. But they'll regroup, and those creatures beneath the city, they're evolving. We have one last mission, to destroy the source of the infection and take back the streets for good. Dr. Reyes stepped forward, holding a small device humming softly. This is the control center for the virus's spread, a hidden lab beneath City Hall. If we can shut it down, we stop the infection at its root. Reed loaded his rifle, determination in his eyes. We hit them hard and fast. No mistakes. The team moved through the city's broken streets, now crawling with more walkers than ever, desperate to reclaim their home. The city seemed to fight back, shadows twisting into monstrous shapes, testing their every step. As they neared City Hall, gunfire and roars erupted ahead. The shadows were defending their last stronghold fiercely, joined by those mutated creatures, more aggressive and terrifying than before. Mara barked orders, and the team surged forward into the chaos. Lena's arrows flew with deadly precision, picking off enemies from the shadows. Jackson's spear danced through the fray, clearing a path. Eli provided cover fire, while Dr. Reyes guided the survivors toward safety. Inside City Hall, the team found the lab, sterile, eerie, and humming with dark energy. The source of the virus pulsed from a massive machine, wires and tubes snaking into the walls. Mara approached the control panel, hands steady despite the weight of the moment. We shut this down, the city gets a chance to heal, she said. Suddenly, alarms blared. The Shadow's leader appeared, a ruthless figure cloaked in darkness, wielding a high-powered rifle. You think you can undo what's been done? The leader sneered. This city belongs to us. Mara squared her shoulders. Not anymore. A fierce showdown erupted. Shots rang out, echoed by growls from the mutated creatures that burst into the room. Mara and her team fought side by side, every moment a desperate struggle between life and death. In a final act of bravery, Reed tackled the leader, wresting the rifle away as Mara disabled the virus machine. The hum slowed, then died. Outside, the unnatural fog began to lift, and the walkers slowed, their movements less frenzied. The city exhaled. Mara looked at her team, survivors bound not just by battle, but by hope. We've taken the first step, she said quietly. The city's shadows won't disappear overnight, but together, we'll bring back the light. As dawn broke fully over the skyline, the team stood united, ready to rebuild, reclaim, and remember those lost. The City of Shadows was no longer just a prison. It was their home. And they would fight to keep it. If you want, I can help you with summaries, title suggestions, or even photo prompts for your YouTube content based on this story.